Love Island, Season 7, Episode 28. I loved this episode. In my opinion, this episode was giving Love Island. This was giving the Love Island USA that I am used to, that I love, and I'm so here for it. I am genuinely hoping that the season as it progresses from here is going to keep that lightheartedness, even though there's gonna be tough conversations, but there still should be the fun, there still should be the sexy, there still should be the spark. So I am so happy that we got a lot of that in last night's episode, and again, I'm really hoping we see more of that moving forward. This is Live Live Sometimes, where we go over drama, reality TV, and everything in between. If that's something you're into, please subscribe. I'm trying to build up my channel, and if you like this video, please give it a like, as it will help me to get pushed out by the algorithm. Now let's get into it, because I've got a lot to say. The episode starts out with everyone kind of reeling from what happened. Iris is talking to the girls, especially Chelley, and she's like, I don't know how I'm just supposed to wake up tomorrow morning and be totally fine, which is a little ironic, but we'll get to that. Chelley tells her that don't worry, we'll be there for you. And I kind of was sitting there like, will you guys though? Because technically they could have saved TJ, which then would have kept Iris in her relationship. So I don't know how I felt about that, but I guess it's nice that Chelley was offering her some, condolences and some help. Then we see Sierra approach Olandria, and she says to Olandria, I stood behind Taylor because I knew that Nick would be devastated if Taylor left the island, which I thought was very interesting of Sierra to say. First, you could tell that Olandria just was like, okay, she didn't seem to be too happy about that apology. But on top of that, Sierra's like, oh, I didn't want Nick to be devastated that his friend was gonna leave. Okay, what about Iris? Iris, it was devastated. So you didn't care about Iris. Okay, so Nick above Iris, got it. I mean, whatever. But then on top of that, you're saying, you didn't want Nick to be devastated that his friend was leaving. What about your friend, your bestie, Olandria? What about her? Why did you not consider her in that equation? That just seems a little bit odd. And in my opinion, she should have just stood behind TJ I think the results would have ended up being the same. So why not do that? Why stand behind Taylor when Olandria and him have this history? Then we move over to Taylor and Clark. They're sitting down, they're talking. Taylor's just apologizing. He feels horrible that Clark got put in last place multiple times. And he's like, I know that's my fault and you don't deserve it. You don't deserve that at all. You are not a bad person. And I really I'm glad that he is doing that and glad that he's reassuring her, because if I was Clark, I would also be sitting there like, what the hell? Why do people hate me that much? Or just thinking, okay, did I really mess up by going for Taylor? I am glad that Taylor was saying that. Then he said to her, I'm really happy that you weren't also in the bottom three, because that would have been bad, because then it would have been between him and her, or maybe no one would have even stood behind her. So then one of them would have had to go home, and that would have sucked for both of them. I've got to say, since Taylor has been with Clark, it is like his aura has upgraded. Nothing against Olandria regarding that, but he just moves different, he looks different, he sounds different. With his hair up when they were talking, I was like, damn, is Taylor hot? Wait a minute. Whoa. This is coming from someone that calls him chicken legs, I was like, oh, okay, Taylor. So something about Clark really has brought out a new Taylor, and I'm here for it. I love them together. I love Clark with my whole heart, and I genuinely think that they are good together. Do I think they're gonna win? No. Unfortunately, they'd have to do a lot, and there's just not enough time left. But I think they're gonna make it outside in the real world, so that's a win. Then we move over to Chelley and Ace. They're both definitely confused as to why they were in the bottom, but you can tell Ace looks like he is looking inward. He is being very pensive this entire episode. So I do think that those votes and where he landed in 9th place really bothered him. And I think he's taking a look inward, what have I done? What is America seeing? That kind of thing. Versus Chelley is completely blown away that they were in so low, the both of them and individually. Then in her confessional, she says, I don't know what I did to piss y'all off, but I think I'm genuine. And I get being like sure of yourself, but if I was her, I would be more like Ace, where I'd be like wondering, okay, what have I done wrong and what can I do better? And I don't know. She just seems to take zero criticism, and that's never a good thing. Like, even later, Huda comes up to her and she's like, how are you feeling? Referring to being in almost last place every time. And Chelley goes, America, shit. And she goes, I don't get it and I don't care to get it. And I'm like, got it. I don't know. But during Ace and her's convo, she basically is like, you're my Prince Charming, you're boyfriend material, this, that, and the other thing. And you can really tell in this episode that she is like sucking up to Ace. She's really sucking up to Ace, and you can tell that she might be regretting the whole Chris thing. Because now her and Ace seem to be a little bit on edge. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but she is definitely trying to get into his good graces, and I don't know if it's working. Then we move over to Chris, Elon, and Zach. They're having a conversation about what just happened, who went home, and Chris brings up Iris, or Elon brings up Iris, and Chris says to him, like, I think it'll be a little weird if she moves on really quick. He's like, she kept saying how much she liked him. She bawled her eyes out. And Chris goes, if I really liked someone and they got sent home, I would go home with them. And I believe Chris when he says that. I just thought that was interesting. Elon makes a comment saying, he's basically trying to figure out who's available, who's not linked up with someone, who can he get in with, because right now he is very, very much going home if he doesn't make some kind of move. So he talks about how he'd be interested in talking to Iris. Zach then decides to tell the group that, he is with Amaya and Olandria, and I'm sitting here like, what do you mean? Amaya, you and Amaya are not on good terms, so while you might be matched with Amaya, there's nothing there. On top of that, Olandria, one, I don't think he actually likes Olandria. I think he looks at Olandria as a ticket to win, which, on top of that, I genuinely think that if Olandria got with Zach and they moved quickly, that would be going against her morals and the morals she has laid out this entire season. So that would be very weird to watch. And on top of that, I feel like it would be insincere. But maybe she really does like him. I know they've had some good conversations, but I just don't see a spark at all. Then in his confessional, Zach is talking about how, Amaya's a real one. He really F's with her, and he can see why America F's with her. She's got fiery passion. I'm sitting there like, boy, you are not fooling anyone at all. Like, get off our television screen, go home. Then we see that Chelley is making Ace breakfast. Once again, I feel like she's doing too much. She's trying to, get him back locked in, and I think that she's really in it, and right now he's kind of pulled out. I don't know. We'll get into that. But while she's making him breakfast, Taylor asks her, so are you and Ace locked in now? And she goes, no, but I'd like to be. Girl. Then we see Iris and Pepe. They are having breakfast together. They're talking about potentially linking up. They're talking about how Iris now understands how Pepe felt about Hannah going home. And I just thought it was really funny that Pepe now is once again finding himself with a girl who was with a different man, had a strong connection, and bawled when they went home. Like, here we are again. I do think that they could work. Reason being is Pepe, when Huda came up to him 2 weeks ago, he did tell Huda that he likes a very calming presence. He likes a calm person, and that Hannah was totally different than what he's ever been with. And while he did like what Hannah brought out in him, he said that's not normally his steez. So Iris is a very calm and collected person for sure. However, them saying like, oh, we never explored this, we never had the chance to explore. Yes, you did. You had the last how many days? Maybe 2 weeks. You had time. You just both were caught up in your own things, and you weren't interested enough in each other to explore that. So, don't be lying to us. On top of that, I think that Pepe should leave. I think it would be a grand gesture. I think Hannah would love that. I think it would really help Hannah in his relationship. I only feel like he is staying now because he saw that America really likes him. So maybe he thinks no matter what girl I link up with, I'm going to be good. Pepe, we love you, but not that much. You're not Amaya. Then we move over to one of my favorite scenes of the entire episode. We see Huda bringing Chris over breakfast, even just from the start where she was like, hey, could you maybe help me? And he's like, oh my gosh, yeah. The way that they interact is so natural, so cute, and I'm obsessed with it. So Chris then tells Huda that he had a dream about basketball and how, he basically is going to have to start moving in other ways, find something else to do. He thinks he's going to have to take a step back from basketball. And Huda's like, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And Chris reiterates, like, when I play basketball overseas, I'm gone for 6 to 9 months at a time straight. And then I can't do anything back home. I can't be building things. And in that moment, I knew that man was talking about Huda. I knew that man was concerned about him playing ball in Europe because he knows that if he does that, him and Huda aren't going to work. And he wants that to work. That's why he had the dream the night before. He is starting to realize, like, oh, I'm falling for this girl. And he's trying to figure out the way to align his life so that it works for both of them. And I think that is so beautiful, so gorgeous, so love it. Chris mentions that he's feeling emotional and that he wants to hold it in, and Huda's like, do not hold it in. He mentions that he wants to cry, and she's like, cry. That is nothing wrong with crying. If you need to cry, if you need to let it out, let it out. And in that moment, I was like, I love this side of Huda. This is the nurturing side of Huda, and I'm so glad that she found a man who is helping to bring that side out of her. So she tells Chris that, you have no idea what's going to happen. Life is unpredictable. So even if you make plans, those plans might not pan out. She tells him a little anecdote about when she was a single mom and broke, and she realized, like, no, we have to focus on the good. It's always going to get better. And she says, I promise it'll always get better. Chris tells her that she really made him feel better. And I just love that. Then in his confessional, Chris says that he is really into Huda and that they both bring out the best in each other. Chris says, she gets me out of my head. And he says that he is able to let her show her true self. And I just love it. I genuinely love them together. Then we see Bryan and Nick talking while Nick works out. He's like lifting like 10 pounds or something. I don't know. But Bryan's telling him, all of her past connections, the things that they listed as cons, I look at as pros. And I loved hearing that. We need a man who is going to love Amaya for Amaya. Zach claims he does, but that's BS. Bryan genuinely does. Bryan talks about, we're both Hispanic, we come from a similar culture, and that's what I'm used to. That fiery passion is what I like. And then he also says too, like, her and I move at the same speed. So there will not be any weirdness, miscommunications, like, we're good. And he wants to explore that. Nick at first is a little bit like, probably because he wants the money. But then Nick does say to him, my sensitive gangster Amaya needs to find another sensitive gangster like yourself. And I agree with that. I'm so excited about them. Then we see Amaya go to comfort Clark. And in this moment, it is such an example of who Amaya is as a person and why America loves her. She went to Clark and she's talking about, I know that you probably feel like crap, but they don't know you yet. And once they get to know you, they're going to love you too. She said, I thought that they were going to think I was crazy, emotional, this, that, and the other thing, and they finally got to see me. And Clark responds to that. She's like, I'm so glad that people finally see you for you. And just their friendship is so beautiful. I think they both are really good people. But one of the things that really moved me was when Amaya said to her, I want America to see who you are because I know you have a sweet heart. And that was, some people would get voted number one and go on a power trip, right? But Amaya got voted number one And instead of going on a power trip, she went to the person who was voted last and made sure America saw them together and made sure America saw the way she felt about Clark, to share that. She wanted to share that so that America would see Clark for who Clark is. And I think that is so beautiful and is such a statement onto who Amaya is as a person. And also during that conversation, I love Clark too. I think that they're going to be besties, and I want the best for both of them, genuinely. Like, I really like Clark. Chelley and Ace meet up once again. Chelley tells Ace, I'm done with exploring. I don't want to do that anymore. Ace gives her a hug. She says, I'm done trying to do experiences with Chris. This, that, and the, as if it's like you have a choice there. She says, I found something good and I don't want to mess with that anymore. It's like, I want to be closed off. She's saying this to Ace, and Ace just hugs her. Like I said earlier, Ace has been very quiet, reserved, pulled back, introspective, and I think he is cooling off on Chelley, because he could have closed it off in that moment and he didn't. And you could tell she wanted to close it off in that minute and he didn't. That was a choice. That was a purposeful choice. I don't know if that is his way of like punishing Chelley for the Chris thing or what, but something has changed and it's not looking great for her. Then we have the crash out challenge. Huda makes a joke like, oh guys, I get to crash out. I get to dust off the, I thought that was cute. She asked Sarah, is it cool if I bring out the crash out? Sarah's like, all right, this time's fine. I'm not a huge fan of the challenges, but out of the challenge, I thought there was 2 moments that were of interest. One was Zach and Olandria kissing. Again, I just don't see the spark there. It seemed performative, but that's my opinion. More importantly, Amaya and Bryan kiss, and thank God they did, because during that kiss, they both locked in, locked on, and they said, oh, wait, there's actually something here besides liking each other, like emotionally, mentally. They were like, oh, the physical is here too. And Amaya's like, oh, guys, that was the best kiss I've had on this island. He is the best kisser. And then, of course, unfortunately, because of PTSD, Ace, she goes, but I just don't want to move too fast. So, like, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just saying, like, Amaya, don't ever lessen yourself for some idiots. After the challenge, people are asking Pepe and Iris, they're going back and forth. All the guys are debriefing, all the girls are debriefing, and they're talking about Pepe and Iris. Pepe said that he chose her for the kiss because it was the most comfortable. He's the most comfortable with her. I don't know if comfortable is necessarily what you want. I don't know. I think Pepe is a straightforward person. I think sometimes he has trouble fully getting it out when he should get it out, like with Grayson. But comfortable can be good. But I'm not sure in this case. They ask Iris, could you see anything happening there? And Iris is like, Pepe's hot. I've always thought Pepe was hot and the kiss was good. So yeah. And I'm sitting there like, girl, last night you said to Chelley and the girls like, there's no way I can wake up tomorrow morning and be like, oh, everything's fine now. And then she made the point of saying, but I miss TJ. Girl, okay. Pepe's got some kind of magic, because that's 2 girls now that were bawling their eyes off. They're bawling their mascara all over their face. And then the next day they're like, oh, Pepe. So, he's got it like that, I guess. Amaya and Zach talk. I think this talk was obviously needed, but I was just kind of like, whatever. They talk. Amaya apologizes for using profanity. She's like, I should never talk to anyone that way. And I agree with her. That's awesome that she took accountability for that. But I also would have told him to fuck off. So, but good on her for doing that. He apologizes. He says that, he realizes he should have been there for her because they were partnered up. He should have stood up for her against the other guys like Bryan did for her. And so Amaya's like, yep, no, we're good. La, la, la. And then in her confessional, she's like, while we're good and I've forgiven him and he's forgiven me, we're friends. Like, there's nothing romantic left there. And I was sitting in there like, Bryan. So that was what was going through my head. I could care less about Zach. Bye, Zach. Then we have Nick and Sierra. Nick and Sierra get together to talk, and Sierra makes the comment of like, yeah, we haven't even been one-on-one since our date. That was like 3 days ago, if not longer, because again, they're ahead of... What do you mean you haven't been together since your date? What is that? What? So Sierra's like, let's talk about what closed off means in the real world, because that's kind of just a term for in here. She says that she wants to explore each other when they get out of the villa, but they're not boyfriend-girlfriend yet. She does say, though, closed off means that if someone new comes into the villa, they don't get to explore. And Nick made a face in that moment. I'm going to put it here, but Nick made a face like this, like, and I was like, oh, what was that face, Nick? What was that face? The fact that Nick has been thinking about this since the picnic when he closed things off. So you close things off and you immediately were like, oh wait, is she going to think that we're going to be like together when we get out of the villa? I thought you really liked her. You've been getting it on. What's the dealio here? I think that Sierra trying to be the cool girl is going to bite her in the ass. Just saying. And to me, they're the Kendall and Nicole of this season. Tell me I'm wrong. Then we have the Chelley and Chris talk. This talk was very interesting to me because I almost feel like even though Chelley came to say that they're done, I felt like she was leaving a lot of doors open there. Every time she would say something, she would only say like, there was nothing final in what she was saying, and then she would take these pauses like she was hoping that he was gonna fight for her, or hoping that he was gonna be like, yeah, I really wanted you. It was just interesting to me. I loved that Chris kept correcting himself when it came to Huda. Like when he said, yeah, when me and Huda were together, and he's like, what, we're together. You know what I mean? He made sure to make it known, no, me and Huda are together, we're good, I really like her. And Chris explains why he stepped away. Chelley's like, oh, that must have been like a miscommunication, that sucks. And I'm sitting here like, girl, she wanted Chris to chase her like Ace has been chasing her. And when that didn't happen, she didn't know what to do with all that. And then she also had to deal with Ace being mad. And then she realized Huda was Chris's girl now. And I think that really threw her through a loop. And she did not like that. So I think if Chris had shown her any interest in this conversation where she's ending things, I think she would have continued. No joke. No joke at all. She also mentions, like, I wish we would have had a convo about it so we could fix it. Why do you care now if it's over? Then she says, but, now you're growing your connection and I'm growing mine, I guess. I guess? He says, as long as we're good, I'm good. No harsh feelings towards you, towards Ace. We're cool. But yeah, then when she's ending the conversation, he's walking away and she brings up how America thought he was one of the most genuine. And she's like, oh, I totally agree. And you could tell he was checked out of that conversation. And he just kept on going to go get his girl. Pepe and Iris talking. To be honest, I wasn't really interested in this conversation. Iris definitely seems more into Pepe than Pepe to Iris, but Pepe did have a little bit of a sparkle in his eye, so again, they talked more about him being comfortable, and again, I don't know if that's a great word to be using. Then for another one of my favorite scenes of the episode, Bryan and Amaya. Bryan and Amaya go into the speakeasy. They're sitting there chatting it up. They are laughing. They're giggling. They're both blushing. They're having a good time. They're teasing each other. Amaya does, again, try to apologize for stuff. And he is like, stop doing that. Do not change yourself. Whatever other people think that is bad about you, I love. So do not change yourself. And I loved seeing Amaya being reassured for once. and by one of the guys she's interested in. And so then they're going back and forth. He's like, oh, I got you smiling and giggling and blushing, and she's laughing and she's looking in the mirror like, oh yeah, bye, you know, so cute. And then the man does one of the hottest things that we've seen thus far on Love Island. He goes, come here. I said, I'm gonna come over there. That was so hot. That was what she needed. First man to initiate a kiss with her outside of challenges. And I was so here for it. It was so hot. It was so cute. Her in her grandma dress, and he goes, by the way, I love the way you look tonight. And she goes, me in my old lady outfit? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I've been staring you down all night. I was like, I love this. I love this. I'm so glad that Amaya Papaya found her man. And genuinely, whereas like Zach seemed okay at first and like they were cute at times, I always was like, he's gonna mess this up, you know? But then with Bryan, I don't think he's going to. Could she? Potentially. But I think Bryan and Chris are both really good men, and it's the first time that I've seen two men that I don't think are going to mess things up or like turn on the girls. So I'm really happy about that. I'm really, really digging Amaya and Bryan and Huda and Chris, and I'm totally fine with either of them winning. Genuinely. All around, I thought it was such a great episode. It's the way that Love Island USA should be. We need that. The fun, the sexy, the cute, the romantic, we finally have it. You know, we finally have it. We finally at least have two connections that are strong. Chelley and Ace, again, I feel like Ace is pulling back. So, don't know how that's going to go. But anyway, I'm so excited to see what happens on Sunday. I'm assuming Sunday is either going to be, they said it's a recoupling, but when is movie night going to be? It's got to be soon. I kind of don't want movie night anymore because it's just going to, movie night is there to illuminate certain things so that people don't make the wrong choice. And I don't really know if I see that working this season. You know, it's just going to turn the girls against the girls, and I don't want that. We're finally in a good, happy, peaceful, fun place for the most part. So like, why mess it up? I know movie night's everyone's favorite. It is my favorite too, but this season I just don't know if it's going to help or hinder just for the drama. I don't know. Like, do I want Sierra to know that like Nick and Olandria's kiss was a lot more than they both described? Sure. Do I want, like, but now it's like, I don't even want Olandria to know what Taylor has said about her because they're not together. She's no longer pining after him. So that would just hurt her. There would be no purpose to that. And so outside of that, I'm like, what? The girls talking shit behind each other's back. They've all talked shit. So I don't see the point. I just don't see the point. So I'm totally fine with no movie night this season. I know, don't attack me, but I just don't know if it's necessary and if it's going to do any good, any moving forward. Like last year we needed it so that, you know, Kaylor could see the way her man was moving and how much he lied and things like that. But this season it's like, I feel like it's just going to be like when Rob found out that Leah was like, oh, now we're sending 3 home. Who cares? Leah's allowed to bitch about that. Hello? I just feel like that would be the case in this season, and I don't know if it's worth it at this point. But Sunday, I'm excited for a recoupling and maybe a bombshell or two. It's kind of late in the game, but you never know, because last year we had some really late ones, so I don't know. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really helps to push my video out to the algorithm. And if you like Love Island drama, reality TV, please consider subscribing, and I'll see y'all in the next one.